Fred Markus, welcome to the show.
Okay.
And
we got to start someplace.
The name of our show tonight is Redistricting Minneapolis.
Oddly enough, a familiar topic.
And you happen to be quite involved in this issue.
Yes, ma'am, I am. I was on the 2002 Redistricting Commission, along with Lyle Schwarzkopf, who's mentioned in today's paper, the Star Tribune. And we did not have a good experience. It was awkward.
Yes.
It was also awkward for many people who were affected by the outcome of that redistricting episode.
Right.
So much so that 9 members of the City Council asked the Charter Commission to please take over redistricting, this time out of the box.
Yes.
And the Charter Commission, at first reluctant, eventually thought, yeah, we can do this, but we'll need a 9-member advisory committee to help us over the rough spots.
Yes.
And the City Council at first didn't think that was such a swell idea, but they went along with it because they really can't tell the Charter Commission what to do.
Yes.
And so that's where we're at now. It's on the ballot, no problem. The amendment's on the ballot. It will change the whole way this is done. And several of us sat through August and September and wrote a bunch of new language that will lay out just what all this means in practice.
Okay.
It will greatly improve the lighting.
Okay. Yes. Well, what can I tell you? It's a live show.
Sure. Well, I don't mind.
And we go on the air when we go on the air, whether we're ready or not.
Well, I'm just
I'm
just hot to
good.
trot.
So,
There's no question.
Where should we start? Do you want to tell the urgency of why it's so important that we do the redistricting and the problems that exist now?
The thing is, we redistrict every 10 years, come hell or high water. I mean, that's in the federal constitution.
Okay.
And it's up to local jurisdictions to decide how they want to do it, by and large. In the 2000 sequence, which finally got going in 2002, the decision was taken to revise whatever had been before into the system that is described in the paper here, which I'll refer to as the old way, even though it only happened once.
Okay.
Already it's the old way. And it meant that a small group of the redistricting commissioners, comprising the 3 DFLers and the 2 Independence Party people, formed a clique that passed that plan 5-4. The 4 that were in the minority couldn't do a darn thing about it and didn't even know what it was until 15 minutes before the final meeting of the commission itself, which is hardly, that's like dirty pool or something.
Yes, absolutely.
So
and designed.
Oh, very designed.
Designed to have that happen so that you couldn't do anything about it.
That's right. And it was the 4 corners strategy. This corner of the city, and this corner, and this corner, and this corner, and that wonderful great big ward in the middle there were all by design.
Yes.
That protected the council president, the council vice president, the favorite of the unions down here in the southeast corner, and the well-to-do people in what I call the high-rent district in southwest Minneapolis.
Rent district, yes.
And then, of course, made sort of a super ward out of the middle of the city, including the Gold Coast. The new construction along the river that had been in an already very challenged 5th Ward, taken away from that 5th Ward, taking away the one economic engine it really had, and adding it to an already lush set of assets, the downtown itself, Kenwood, and Lake of the Isles. So that meant a whole bunch of yummy stuff for that one city council member, and slim pickings up here in near north, which in recent years, as you know, has become something of a wasteland.
Yes.
It's got all kinds of foreclosures, all kinds of vacant properties, all kinds of problems with the stability of the system up there. And Well, I think they're going to get the Gold Coast back. I just have that feeling that whatever we do, we're going to end up having more substance in the Fifth Ward as a matter of equity. Mm-hmm. Now, the lawsuit that came out of this process was quite interesting to me because, on the one hand, I was one of the plaintiffs representing the Green members of the City Council.
Okay.
The Minority Council.
And this was the year?
2002.
2002.
Yeah. So I was a plaintiff there because I was representative of the interest of the plaintiffs, who were the Green Party people who'd brought suit against the Redistricting Commission. But wait, I was also a defendant because I was one of the Redistricting Commissioners. So when it got to the point that I was subpoenaed by both sides to come and give a testimony under oath, I figured, you know what, it's time to be that cultural geographer I've been claiming myself to be. So I put on my academic hat, as it were, and just went and said whatever I wanted to. Devil take the hindmost.
Oh my goodness.
And of course there was a flaw.
So unlike you, I imagine.
Yes, I know. I'm very conservative. So there's a flaw in the language of the charter that makes it uncertain just what north, south, east, and west really means. There's a stipulation in the charter that says that wards have to be compact. You can't have a ward that's long and skinny. But they got away with it because on the compass, that is to say the compass rose that we're all familiar with, the distance from north to south and from east to west are roughly the same, even though the ward itself is on the diagonal and is long and skinny and misshapen and very much a product of gerrymandering. But because there was no clarity in the charter about just what north, south, east, and west really meant, well, the judge and I ended up on the same side of the street, saying that, well, that's the only, I mean, common sense says you use the compass rose and there it is. Have a nice day. So the plan stood and was enacted. And one of the outcomes was that 2 city council members were forced to run against each other. And oddly enough, the Green city council member lost. And then down in South Minneapolis, in these inner wards, oh, look, another Green member had run against the DFLer. And sure and begorra, the Green member lost. Well, how very sad to have lost 2 Green members of the city council by virtue of having played jiggery-pokery with the ward boundaries.
Oh, gosh.
See how that goes?
Well,
that's part of the
very near and dear to my heart.
That's part of what Lyle, where's that article? What Lyle calls, he remembers the bad taste it left.
Okay, we're talking about now an article from the Star Tribune. StarTribune.com. Came
out this morning. Steve Brandt wrote it, and he's been trying to keep up with all this heavy traffic. Lyle is now the facilitator. He's a member of the Charter Commission these days, and so is Todd Ferrara, who was also a redistricting commissioner last time out, one of the Independence Party members of the commission. We also have an Andy Kozak as a commissioner who had been the chair of the redistricting commissions in both 1980 and 1990. Lyle had also served with Andy Kozak on that 1990 redistricting commission. So, as a matter of fact, we have 4 redistricting commissioners underfoot in this affair, which helps to stabilize the credibility of the intentions that are being displayed now for the electorate to pay attention to.
Good.
Because we know what we're talking about. All right. Now, Lyle, as a charter commissioner, was tasked with facilitating a drafting committee that put together this next batch of stuff, which is the recommended principles for redistricting Minneapolis wards and park districts this time around.
Okay, now we're going to be discussing
what
how
we've been doing
it can
lately.
be and what this very good plan is that you've put
That's
together.
Right. So here we are.
It can be.
We're all a bunch of crusader rabbits, in effect.
Yep.
And by golly, we're going to do it right this time.
Yes.
Now there are.
And who wrote this new plan?
Well,
Who put
oddly
this
enough, there
together?
was 9 redistricting commissioners plus me.
Okay.
And I'm a redistricting commissioner 9 charter commissioners, and then I sat in on it as a former redistricting commissioner myself.
Okay. And the purpose was to correct these
awkward things.
Yep.
These awkward things. So, no, you can't. First of all, one principle is about transparency. Virtually everything that happens in front of the public's eye.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come in with the suggestion that you whisper, bzz, 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 bzz. Can't do that. Either it comes out in a public hearing or it doesn't happen.
Right.
You can't have all the minions of the political parties cutting deals.
Yes.
No, because the charter commissioners themselves, all 15 of them, are de jure nonpartisan people. They're appointed by the Hennepin County Chief Judge. They don't have a partisan bone in their bodies.
Yes.
If you believe that, I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. But at least that's the theory. Then on the advisory committee, what's wanted there is much more diversity, because the Charter Commission itself is lily white, mostly middle-aged men. There's a few more women now, but basically it's the usual suspects that show up on these boards and commissions.
Mm-hmm.
And what we didn't have and what we desperately need are people who can learn the vocabulary and learn the functions of redistricting on behalf of these ever-growing portions of our population who are of East African extraction or of Latino extraction or of Southeast Asian extraction, or and so on and so on. These are people who never show up in these high-profile entities of the city. Well, because it's been kind of a closed shop, don't you know?
Oh.
And what is increasingly happening, and here I put on my cultural geographer hat, my demography hat.
Yes.
We are having some very substantial changes in the composition of our population. Right now, there are 38,000 kids in the K-12 public school system in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And they are a majority-minority population. White people do not have a majority in the public school system.
Yeah.
It's all everybody else, African Americans and all these
anymore.
other people I mentioned. And my point that I've written about elsewhere is that, hey, face it, in 20 years, those kids are going to be all over us. And in 30 years, the kids that will vote for the first time this fall, when they turn 18,
Yep.
in 30 years they'll be 48 years old, and they'll be running the city.